Hi, there are two people here.
It's me, Matt Steele.
Exactly, Matt Steele. You look very different.
Yeah.
You've really grown up since last I've seen you.
Well, it's a new aesthetic for me.
I love it. No, everyone, I'm here with the lovely Rory James, podcaster, TikToker. I'm super excited. Comedian, excuse me. Comedian. I'm super excited with Rory James available now wherever you get your podcast. And Rory is filling in for Matt Steele, who I believe is in Austin, Texas, visiting friends. But Rory, welcome to the podcast. How do you feel?
Thank you. I feel great.
Yes.
I love the Two Gay Mets podcast, and I can't even begin to attempt to fill the shoes of Mr. Matt Steele. Now, is it true that he never vacations?
He's not a big vacationer.
But he's vacationing.
He is. I think I saw that his friend Fernando is performing in a play, and I believe he's there to support him. And I think there might be a Friendsgiving moment happening.
All right.
And so it's good. But I think he's more, he likes to stay in his routine. He'll go to Jersey and then come back, and that's about it. Love a vacation.
You're a glamorous person.
I love not being at work and not being at my house and just going somewhere else to lie down and be lazy. That is a vacation to me.
You have to do it. I sometimes struggle with making time because it sometimes feels indulgent to me to do that.
Right.
But I think it's very important to do.
Absolutely.
And I'm honored to be in this in his seat.
Rory, last night we were together.
Well,
together in person.
You are a married woman.
I am not married, but I am taken. But we and the lovely Jackson all went to go see our queen.
We did.
The only queen that we acknowledge here in America. Sorry, Brits. Mariah Carey. She was performing at the Hollywood Bowl. She came to town, much like Santa, and did such a lovely bang-up job performing. And I was trying to think, has she ever performed at the Hollywood Bowl before? Was this
She did.
First?
She was at the Hollywood Bowl when she toured with Lionel Richie in 2017.
I didn't realize that was at the Bowl.
I didn't see that. That one. But when you say, she is royalty to us.
Yes.
I am the only person that I know who loves Mariah and you're the only person who loves Mariah as much as I do.
Yes.
And so I don't take this sort of business lightly.
No.
This was a big deal.
I mean, I feel like our friendship was forged knowing we have a mutual friend who introduced us being like, you two love Mariah Carey more than most people on planet Earth and should become friends. And very soon we were sitting down 10 years ago now talking at Overland Cafe about how the hashtag beautiful release was going.
I love that you remember that. Sometimes, when people try to set you up with friends or dating people and I'm always like, ugh, what do you think what do you know?
You think just because I'm gay, we'll be friends.
Right. But no, Matt and I got into the weeds of Mariah fandom immediately, and it was like, they say that when you have kids with somebody, it brings a couple closer because you have a shared, even if your love of this same thing brings you together.
Absolutely.
I feel like you and I have such a the same passion for her, and your fans know this. But it was really exciting because we got to see her earlier this year at LA Pride.
I know,
and it's only been the only other year that I've seen Mariah twice, like in a big way like this in the same year was 2003 when I saw the Charm Bracelet tour on two different dates. But
great pictures of you there.
Well, if the people don't know, I took my first photo with Mariah Carey when I was 15 years old, and I am wearing a polo and mesh basketball shorts. And the one thing I stand by in the photo are my Air Force Ones. They are white and
good for
fluffy,
you.
And that's a shoe I still stand by. But it was a very embarrassing photo, and I am in a stage of puberty where I don't think you would say I'm a man yet.
I mean, I don't think 15's anyone's like, oh, that was when I looked
best. Because there are some guys in high school. Some guys peaked at 15. You know what I mean? And now they look gross. But and Mariah's like in the best shape of her life, and is just like, and it's horrifying how I don't match the woman standing next to me. And as you know, this is what created the mission that I was on for the next 15 years of redoing that photograph, which I got to do in Las Vegas.
Yes.
As a grown man, I took a grown-ass man photo with Mariah Carey.
Yes.
And I had the nerve to put my hand on her lower back.
Hey.
On the small of her back. But Mariah Carey.
She loved it.
touched her.
She loved it. I'm sure she was like, oh, we're getting close.
Listen,
we're friends
I'm not one
here.
of those men that just assumes that when you put your hands on somebody that they loved it. But what I will say is that she did put her arm on my shoulder like this and lean in with me. She didn't have to do all that.
She didn't. That's friendship. That was a bond being created.
I look back on that as the redo of one of the most mortifying photos of my life. And so, but this is all in the collection of times I've seen Mariah and how they all add up. So you and I think I came in, we did a bonus episode over the summer of this show where we talked about the LA Pride experience, but this was the Christmas show.
This was the Christmas show, and going in, it was like, I know... I had seen Mariah for Christmas before. I saw her during one of her Christmas Vegas shows. I think it was probably back in 2017. And it was so incredible. And she was also in great voice that night. But I was so upset because Milo Yiannopoulos was sitting right in front of me. And I was like, you fucking piece of shit. Right. You should not be enjoying Mariah in this way. And so having a Christmas experience with Mariah that did not include that person was really lovely.
That can really fuck up an experience of who's sitting around you.
Right. I don't want you to be experiencing this joy. Because
you also got yelled at when we saw her in Vegas in 2018 for standing up for too long and getting excited.
But it's like, hello, it's a concert.
Supposed to do? Yeah, you didn't have to apologize for
I was actually surprised at this Christmas show that I feel like clearly with a lot of Christmas songs, especially Mariah's Christmas catalog, there's a lot of balladry happening. I feel like this was the most I've sat at a Mariah Carey show. And it didn't seem like people were sitting because they weren't into what was happening on stage, but it's like she's opening singing like Hark the Herald Angels Sing, like looking beautiful, but it's like very orchestral. And it feels like, art that's to be taken in and not like, woo! But in my heart.
But there was a lot of standing. Every time she would do one of the non-Christmas songs, people got excited. And she did a lot of non-Christmas songs.
She mentioned that her agent a few years ago said, hey, why don't you throw in some non-Christmas songs into this set?
It's when the suits earn their paycheck.
Sometimes the suits are right. Yeah. Not often, but sometimes they were right on that one. And just vocally, like I had seen a couple of clips of her show. I think this was her second show on tour. And she had done a previous show at like a much smaller venue. And she did a good job. But I feel like every time a Mariah tour happens, like she gets better and better as the show goes on. Like if you had told me that last night was like 8 stops into her show, I would have believed you, because you hear those vocals on like Joy to the World, on fucking Hero, on like Hark the Herald when she just first came out, and you're like, she sounds like she has been recording. She says that she has 10 new songs ready that she's been writing with her musical director, Daniel Moore. He's a beautiful musical director. They've co-written a couple of songs. And it seems like she's in the studio singing, and clearly the voice is in good shape. And that is what I was so excited to hear, because it was just like, she looks like she's having fun. She obviously looks gorgeous.
That needs to be underscored.
Stunning.
Because, my first photograph with Mariah was in 2003. That was 20 years ago.
A long time ago.
And she looks the same.
It's shocking.
And so just to wrap your head around, and it was interesting because so I can't emphasize enough how good she both looked and sounded.
Right.
Particularly this far into her career, particularly how critical people are of her.
Right.
But you were mentioning when you see somebody on a tour, and as a comedian, what you typically do is you work on material for about a year to get an hour together, and then you do a special. So it's the illusion in comedy is, they just thought of it on the spot.
Right.
But and I'm always sort of jealous of musicians because it's like, they just expect you to do the same songs.
Totally.
But in comedy, if you see somebody later in the tour, the joke is tighter, but there's sometimes magic the way you do it the first couple of times.
I hear that.
Because it's still fresh to you.
Right.
So, and Brittany talked about that in her book, doing her Piece of Me show to death, to the point where she was so bored of it. And I think for Mariah, what was exciting was, first of all, we didn't have a ton of spoilers beyond that first show.
No, that's all we had.
And I didn't get to see a set list, so I didn't know what the non-Christmas songs were going to be, which was kind of fun for me.
Yeah.
But also, like, for her, there was still the novelty in it for her.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's not like she's been just like, doing it on the road so many times where she's sick of it. So I really appreciated that.
I appreciated it so much about the show. Well, we will talk about other things, but just for highlights for me, I have to say it was so lovely when Ro came out and sang Jesus Born on This Day with Mariah. That duet was gorgeous.
It was very sweet.
I loved the song that she sang in the interlude. She did the same one. What's that song even called? The like little Rocky song that... It's Rocky, but you know what I'm saying? The like kind of pop punk song
the one
Christmas song
from her early mid 90s.
Yes, and I don't know the name of the song. Do you know the name?
Well, it's She's skipping Christmas.
Yes, exactly.
Well, what's great about it is I turned to you in the middle of it and I was like, she shot a whole music video for this because as Monroe's playing the guitar, there's B-roll of Mariah for the whole song, and we hear like basically the whole song. Absolutely. And this was that secret album that she never released of her angsty.
That's the thing. I assume that's still coming, but you never know. But I would like to think it was,
that song at least. We seem to all like it.
It is a great song, but I don't think that's on the album. I don't think that's on the Rocky album. I think it's like, we've made a rock moment for Monroe to perform.
I thought that was like one of the songs that Monroe liked, because remember Mariah said Monroe wanted her to send her those songs. I thought that was from
this is separate.
Okay.
I know, we're breaking new ground here. I also love that Rocky popped up during Here Comes Santa Claus to do a brand new rap. He also, Rocky played the drums at a moment. I was like, Mariah's kids are really getting that musical gene in such a beautiful way, and just different ways than I would have expected.
I didn't want to get into the whole, like, who's actually playing what instruments, but it appeared as though he was playing the drums.
Yes, it really did look like he was playing
I would imagine she's the type of mom that's like, no, we're actually going to, like, take less, like, we're going to learn how to do these things.
She's not going to put those kids on stage without them putting in the hours, the rehearsal, and really being prepared for a show.
So I got to give it to Rocky.
I'm telling you, he was killing. I just love that this is the year of when I'm seeing shows where, like, my faves' children are having moments on stage, because Beyonce obviously brought Blue out, and the fact that Rock and Roll had their moments last night was really great. But yeah, I also love the stretch that was obviously the songs that were not Christmas, like Dream Lover, Fantasy, but Dream Lover, Honey, Heartbreaker, We Belong Together, Hero. We got like a nice little medley, a great chunk.
Make It Happen.
Lovely. And then obviously ending
a No from Caution.
I have never seen a Caution song performed, and so I in my life was like,
she didn't do that one at Pride.
She did not. Okay. And so I was worried I was never going to see a Caution song ever live, and it was great to see a No. And I love also that we were sitting next to someone who was like, so you guys are big Mariah fans? Like, I love her, but like more I'm obsessed with Christmas. And
now let's talk about that, because there were a lot of Christmas heads. And I would say at Pride I found more like Mariah heads.
Totally.
But there were people who were dressed as Christmas trees. And it's so interesting because more than once she referenced that we need this now in this time in history very bad. The levity and the joy. And I think I was noticing people really clinging to Christmas in a very specific way.
Absolutely. I believe that's true. And I did think it was funny, though, that he is not a big Mariah fan. I don't even know if he's a concert person. But obviously, Mariah sings Hero. She walks off stage. It's a very pretend end of the concert because she has not done the song that's about to go to #1 for like its 13th week or whatever this year. And he turns to us and he's like, wait, she's not done. She hasn't done All In for Christmas Is You. And we're like, she's not done.
Yeah. You just stay put. Hun, relax.
There's no way she's getting off the stage without singing All In for Christmas Is You.
And we've been tricked by her fake encore fake outs before.
Absolutely. Very recently we were. We started leaving before she came back and sang Hero at Pride, but
should have known better, as Monica says.
I would never leave a Christmas show before All In for Christmas was performed. Even if it was not even Mariah performing. It's like, I assume you'll be singing the song, and if not, I will be in the seat.
Right.
I will be waiting for you to hop back on. So it was amazing. It was glorious. If you get the chance to go see Mariah Carey during one of these Christmas concerts, I urge you to do so, because you're going to love her. She had so much fun on stage. She improvised songs about her glam squad and a mop. And it was truly
very fun and loosey-goosey.
Lovely. Do you have any other comments about the concert before we move on to News for Idiots?
I think people can be so, we talked about this before we started recording the podcast, that people can, it's great that we're in an era where Mariah is celebrated, particularly this time of year, but there are sometimes where people get really nitpicky and mad at Mariah.
Totally.
For me, I believe that it has to do with the fact that she's so successful and that she's so beautiful and that she's so untouchable, and people are kind of sort of like, all right, well, you're not so great. But,
right.
And so they start to nitpick at her like she's not a human or an artist and all these things. But the fact that she's selling out arenas and multiple dates are being added in the biggest markets just goes to show that her reach, particularly this time of year, is only increasing.
I know.
And I can't emphasize enough. Like, it's almost like when I tell people about that I went to the show, it's like, well, was she like? It's almost like people want to find the problem with it, and I'm like, well, she looked really great and sounded really great, and she did all the songs I wanted to hear. So like, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. I'm happy I went. Like, I know you might be expecting me to be disappointed for some reason, but no, I'm thrilled with my choice, and it was wonderful.
Like I told you, people hate when someone's doing really well.
It's true. I mean, if we've learned anything from Mariah's memoir, Britney's memoir, America loves nothing more, probably the world, was nothing more than to build a woman up.
A woman up
just
and then
to tear her
down.
Yes,
and
so
that is correct.
We are always on the side of the Mariahs and the Britneys of the world, so we love you, ladies.
You know I'm a newly converted Britney fan.
Which, to me, it's wild that it took you this long, but I'm glad you're here.
I don't want to... I know we have topics to get to.
No, please, go to... No, tell the people what happened.
Well, so I always say I'm the perfect age to be a Britney Spears fan. Let's just talk about my age, because Matt Palmer's older than me. So
me, much like Matt Steele, is also 1 year less
Matt Steele
older.
and I are really young. It's not our fault.
1 year.
So I feel like I'm the perfect age to be a Britney fan, because I was in 5th grade when Baby One More Time came out. So it's like... Hello, pop culture comes and Britney Spears, like we were just her demo. And so I've grown up with Britney Spears being it was almost as though Britney Spears was the most popular girl in my school growing up, because that's how present she was.
Right.
And so, but it also, to what I'm saying about what people say about Mariah, it made me not feel like I had to root for her, because she was doing great. Right. I was having issues, you know what I mean? And so, but it's like, I know all the singles. As I told you, I know all the singles. I've never listened to a Britney album all the way through. So
have you gotten to do that recently yet?
I did it with Blackout.
Oh, good for you.
Which is the best one.
Classic.
But anyway, it's through listening to the book, and I loved listening to Michelle Williams' performance, because I felt like she really embodied it and humanized the story. But I was like, man, like in a lot of these instances, I was part of the problem in misunderstanding the situation and thinking she was the villain in her breakup with Justin, and thinking she was out of control. And then she's pointing out, she's like, well, even if I was out of control, men were too, but we didn't have an issue with that.
Right.
And it's like, and when she talks about, getting married in Vegas and being like, I don't know, I think like and we'll talk about marriage stuff later, but on my podcast, I'm super excited with Rory James. My co-host Lori pointed out, she was like, if you have enough money, like it really isn't a big deal to get married for 24 hours. But when your family swoops in and has a big issue with how you're spending, that's the real concern.
You guys were pretty excited and pretty quick to try and take over my life at this very moment.
And I will let you get to the next segment, but I'll just close by saying, but that the other part of it was I was still in my innocent, not fully adult man era when Britney was going through it during Blackout and all of these things. Rebelliousness. Because I was like, she's out of control. And now at this age, I'm like, girl, fucking do what you got to do.
Whatever you want.
And I'm so much more rebellious and stuff like that. So I think I was coming at it from a place of I couldn't understand, why is she... when she's like, I didn't want to be pretty. I didn't want to do what you wanted me to do. At the time, I was like, why not? And now I'm like, yeah, bitch, give him the middle finger.
Honestly.
So I am a Britney Spears. I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, you get a chip for every year. I'm in my first Britney Spears year of fandom.
Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. Yeah. It's never too late to make the right choice.
And Blackout is such a great album. And I love Heaven on Earth and Break the Ice and all those songs.
No, I mean Break the Ice. Classic. I could talk about
started higher.
I could talk about Blackout for 30 minutes, so we must move to the news for idiots. This is a discussion where we just talk about what's been going on in the news, and we talk about all our top stories. This week, Bobby Berk of Queer Eye fame has announced that he is leaving the show, that the upcoming season of Queer Eye, I believe it's season 8, it's been on for 6 or 7 years, but they've had 8 seasons because it's so popular, is going to be his last season as one of the Fab Five. I'm very sad about this. Bobby, I feel like, is such a light on that show. And he and obviously his very large team of people do so much for the heroes every single week on the show. He is the person that's in charge of redesigning the house and doing everything with the living space is very big change. Because it's sometimes you watch Karamo or Anthony, and Anthony, as much as you love him, he's gorgeous and seems like a very nice man. It's you just cut up some avocados. And while Bobby and team are redesigning this person's home.
It's a different division of responsibility.
It is. And I am just going to be sad to see him go. I think he obviously has a lot on his plate and a lot more that he's going to be doing with his life. He left a very beautiful note on his Instagram. He is that one. Okay. Yes, he left a long note on his Instagram if you want to read it. And I believe,
is there any tea behind why?
I mean, according to Us Magazine, which is a terrible source.
But I had a subscription for many years.
Did you really?
Oh, 2002 to 2006.
Wow. Subscription to a physical magazine. You're not that young, man.
All right. I don't appreciate that. You must remember when those magazines ruled everything.
I mean, I remember when they ruled. Absolutely, like that goes without saying.
Because you're older than me.
Anyway. But I didn't have a subscription. But according to Us Weekly, Bobby Berk was asked to leave Netflix's Queer Eye after 8 seasons because he wasn't vibing with the cast. The quote is that the network and the cast thought it was time to bring in fresh blood. Bobby's heart was not in it, and the rest of the cast started to resent him because of that. But then a second source says that he wasn't asked to leave and the decision was amicable. I love nothing more than like drama that we'll never get an answer about. Like, I'm always going to be stuck on like why Deborah Messing and Megan Mullally hate each other now. Like, I will never not wonder about what happened there. But I do hope, just for like the kindness of the show and like the warmth that it brings me, that there's no bad blood between these guys.
Why do you think that this is okay, so it seems to me that like for example, whenever somebody leaves The View,
yes.
It's like, whoa, why? Who do they hate and why are they leave? It's always a drama.
Yes.
It's always a drama with shows with gay men and women in it. And I think it starts to get painted like gay men and women don't know how to get along with each other. But I think the real problem is that fans of those shows, like us, are the ones who want to talk about it.
We do want to talk about it.
I don't think straight guys are like, why did somebody leave Joe Rogan's podcast?
It's true, but maybe deep down they would like to talk about it and don't feel like they can. And for that, I hope they get help. But to me, I feel like with The View and Housewives,
I love The View,
of course, and Housewives is the same. And maybe this is wrong of me, but at some point, as much as you think about it, the end result is they got fired. Like, it just was a network decision. They changed the panel so often. They change who's on the Housewives show so often. But the fact
and people's egos get big and people ask for money and
but there are reasons that it always feels like there was a network decision made that like that's why they're no longer here. And I just don't believe that with this show because it's like the cast changes so much less frequently with this show that I'm like, I am curious. I just hope they're all friendly. And he's going to do amazing things. He obviously has 1 billion fans, and I'm sure he has 1 million lines of home decor and design books coming. But it's just sad. It's the end of an era.
I have always been intimidated by situations where I have to be part of a ensemble group because it's not that I'm not a team player. It's that I don't put myself into certain situations knowing that like I kind of want it to be my call.
Totally.
Like I'm a solo artist, essentially.
Totally. Yeah. Hey, I have a song about that solo act available now.
Yeah. Stream it. Bitches.
Stream it. But yes, no, I agree. It makes it tough. It's like if you are going to, because the idea of like, obviously 2K Mats is me and Matt Steele. And
I was just going to say.
I'm super excited. Lori's a very constant co-host. I feel like when you make the decision to like partner up with someone, even with one person, it's like, okay, is this a way to go? Is this the way to go? And then it's like, you have to have a relationship friend-wise and working together-wise that you believe is stable and can really move forward, and like that the decisions.
And something that's often not created by casting directors.
Exactly,
it's who you've decided.
Exactly, being a part of like a 5 to 10 person ensemble does seem scary to me.
Right,
I would do it. Vanderpump producers, if you're out there and you need a black person, because by the way, you need a black person. I'm available. Yeah. But it does seem scary. It seems scary.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Next up. This is a big topic for Rory.
Okay.
I don't feel like you don't send me a lot of news, but this week you did send news that Kim Kardashian's hairstylist, Chris Appleton, has filed for divorce from Lukas Gage. They were married for 6 months of marriage, it's saying here. Chris Appleton's 40, has filed divorce from Lukas Gage, 28, who's an actor on White Lotus, You and Euphoria, after 6 months of marriage. Appleton filed this Monday morning and lists the couple's date of separation as Friday, November 10th. The usual irreconcilable differences was used as the reason for the split, and the couple did have a prenup in place, which is great. What are your feelings?
So I have been sort of fascinated by this couple for a lot of reasons. Now, I've never seen an episode of The Kardashians. By the way, I'm not mad at The Kardashians. No. And in fact, Kim and Chris and the kids were at the show last night, and they were extremely supportive, and they are to Mariah all the time. So I have no issues with that. But it's not like I'm like, oh, it's Chris Appleton, that guy I know. Like, I know Chris Buckle, that's Mariah's big of ours.
Yes.
But so I don't know it coming from that. What I do know is that Lukas Gage, I remember, he's on season 1 of The White Lotus. He played the bellboy. And then he became viral famous before he became famous acting, because he was auditioning on Zoom during COVID, and a director didn't know that he wasn't muted, or didn't know that Lukas could hear him.
Yeah.
And essentially like humiliated Lukas over his apartment, which he was basically like, oh, these actors in their pathetic apartments. And like nothing about the backdrop like was pathetic. It wasn't like he was in some dilapidated. It was just like, oh, like he didn't have like a giant foyer to shoot his self.
And by the way, actor.
And by the way, like these self tapes, it's like they're doing you a favor. So it's like to fucking shit on them. And he handled himself so well in the moment. He was like, well, hire me. Maybe that will help.
Right.
And I just remember thinking, oh, this is a sweet kid. And I remember like he worked with Molly Shannon on White Lotus. And I was like, oh, she seems to like him. Like he seems like a really sweet kid. And he started to have this glow up in terms of the work that he was getting. And he was on You and he was on The Other Two, which is a show on We Love.
It's on Max now? When is
yes.
it?
And I miss it. I'm so sad that it ended.
Devastated that it's over.
But I love that you loved it too. Oh. And I just remember, but then I was like, essentially he was this really cute straight actor for a while who I had a crush on. And like may have lived in my neighborhood at one point because there were all these sort of like people who, I don't know, he was being spotted at places. Anyway, and then like out of nowhere at the beginning of this year, he's in this gay relationship with Kim Kardashian's, and I didn't know who Chris Appleton was. I look into it. Chris Appleton is a painfully good-looking man in a way that it's like it's sus in a little bit because you're like, all right, that's been created in some ways, and like his body has been created in a way like it is triggering for gay people because it's like, okay, is this what I'm supposed to be? Like all of this, you know what I mean? And I'm not gonna judge the guy, but what I got the sense is that like that's a guy that like is so aesthetically focused, like, and makeup artists and hair people, we love you, but like I'm intimidated to date them sometimes because I'm like, oh, you're so aesthetically focused that like, is it gonna be distracting if I have a pimple?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, is it gonna be like a bit? So he seemed to me always like somebody, and this is unfair, but because he's like in Kardashian land, like could turn on this like when you date in LA, especially men, a big fear, like you have to watch out for people who, okay, I'm really into you on Thursday and then Friday, like I'm gonna need my
people
space,
like to change
and I'm gonna
mind.
need to. So like I got that vibe from immediately, and I was so protective of Lukas Gage, but also I was like, Lukas Gage likes guys, but as you well know with my dating history, it's like I tend to attract these like newly converted like guys who are new to guys, and then like that's an issue too because it's like they don't have the experience to sort of know it. So maybe there's, you know, we don't know if he knew what he was getting into, but I was obsessed with this couple because I was like, there's so much going on here.
Like what's happening?
And also like, do I want to date Lukas Gage or do I want to be Chris Appleton or what's happening? And it was also such a whirlwind.
It was very quick.
So everything happened so fast, and then it's suddenly it's like social media public, and then they're engaged. But then 2 weeks after they get engaged, they actually get married, and of course Kim officiates it, and then it becomes a storyline on her show, and it's all this stuff, and it's just like at this age, I know that like when romances go at that pace, it's like. For the time it lasts, it's so great, and it's not gonna.
It's just hard to be sustainable. Yeah, it's like we're obviously on the outside looking in. I don't know what their relationship was like, but if your assumption
those are the warning signs when it's your friends. You know
yes,
I mean?
yes. It's like when they're like at a 10, it's like, okay, well, real life is not always going to be at a 10. You're not always going to be in this honeymoon phase and wanting to be like, yeah, let's get married right fucking now, and like everything's gonna be perfect. Like, because that's just not how emotion. That's not how human beings work. Like, you have to settle into like, okay, this is what real life would feel like together. Again, I don't know much about either of them. I liked Lukas Gage on obviously on The Other Two and on White Lotus, and he has had, not to bring it back to Vanderpump Rules, he has had Vanderpump Rules themed birthday parties at SUR where he's like invited most of the cast to sit with him because he's obsessed with Vanderpump, and so I'm like, hey, he has great taste, so I want him to be happy.
He seems like such a sweet guy, and I'm just gonna put this out there. If anyone knows Lukas.
Oh God, here we go. This is not Okay Cupid, the podcast.
But no, because he does seem like a sweet guy, and it's hard when the fame of it all is part of this because there was a lot of attention on this relationship.
Totally.
And I also feel the whole this is like something that a lot of people unfortunately go through, which is that when someone can like wake up one day and be like, when you can be like head over heels with somebody and like totally committed to them, like the biggest fear is that one day they wake up and they're like, no,
pass.
never mind.
thinking something else today.
And I get those vibes from that situation, and I feel that's traumatic, you know?
It is, and I hope he's okay. I did see a tweet that made me laugh, and I hope it made him laugh, and both of them laugh. That was like, honestly, coming out via getting married to a guy and then like having a divorce 6 months later is like a little bit iconic. And it like, I'm sure looking back in far, far down in the future, he'll probably be like, that was a moment. It wasn't right. It didn't work out, but it was a moment and people remembered it, and like, a life experience that we can all move on from. I'm never happy about a divorce. Happy that there are no kids shared, and it feels like it was short enough that like if there was any sort of, if then there was a prenup, so everybody's gonna be fine and moving on with their lives and doing great. So Lucas and Chris, we're sorry about hearing what happened, but I'm glad that you'll be moving in happier directions going forward.
What's up, Lucas?
Oh my God, did you see that? Okay, first it was announced at midweek that apparently there was a animated / live action movie from Warner Brothers called Coyote versus Acme, and it was like a whole Bugs Bunny themed movie that was completely finished that Warner Brothers had decided to shelve and just never release. And this has happened before. I think it was Batgirl was completely finished, and I think WB as well decided just not to release it and to write it off as like a tax write-off, because instead of actually putting out the content that these writers, producers, actors have like poured their soul into for so long, they'd be like, we'll just cancel it and get the $30 million.
Why is that? Why?
Because they get a tax write-off from it. And I think these streamers and these...
Why do you get a tax write-off from burying something that you invested in? Like, if you're a builder and you build a neighborhood of houses, why would you get a tax write-off for not selling them?
I think because you can report it as a loss. It's like, we spent all this money making this movie and we didn't make any profit.
Who are they punishing?
They're punishing the people who've made the content, in my opinion.
Even though the strike has now been settled? Like,
yes.
If you're a studio and you have an asset like that, why wouldn't you try to monetize?
Because at some point someone decided this is not going to turn a profit, and why don't we just
First
get
of
the money
all,
being
I love Wiley.
I love that you're like standing Wiley Coyote.
No, first of all, like my early childhood memories, like that shit was funny.
It's great. And the thing is, people who had seen early cuts of the film were like, it's actually excellent. So I feel like the Batgirl folks maybe were like, there was less of a talk about the movie being excellent. In my opinion, whether it's good or bad, if you've put the money into it and you've created the entire thing, put the shit out.
Shelving things, that's petty.
It's petty and it's gross, and I feel like the streaming era, it happens all the fucking time. I've talked about it on the podcast, how like the Real World Homecoming seasons that I fucking loved, they have completely taken off the streamer, and you can't, like, maybe you can buy them on iTunes, but they're just essentially unavailable. It makes me sick.
Well, my biggest fear with streaming, and this started with music, was that when you could download MP3s, hopefully through iTunes or legally, but like you had that media. It was yours.
Exactly.
When it's streamable, it's like, how many times have you gone to watch a TV show? Oh, 30 Rock's not on Netflix anymore. Well, is it on fucking Hulu? Where is it? Like, that's what's fucked about streaming.
It's why people are kind of turning back to physical media in a way. Like, I feel like it has something to do with...
Do you think that is...
I do. I feel like I could see more Blu-rays and DVDs being sold after more of this kind of streaming shit happens. And vinyls, of course, are giant these days. So I could foresee this being a return to physical media because of that exact fear. But luckily, because of the backlash from WB decided to shelve this film, they have now said that they are going to shop the movie around for other potential distributors.
I would watch the shit out of it.
That's the thing, is like, I feel like this was the best, like, not the best press they could have had. They could have put it out and like actually made press for it. But I'm so excited to see this film now. I want to support everyone who was a part of it, because like, what a heartbreaking phone call to receive. It's like, oh, that whole thing that was your life for this amount of time, yeah, no one's gonna see it. Go fuck yourself. It's like,
I think I would make a great Wile E. Coyote, because what always happened was he thought he was gonna get the Roadrunner, and then he would be a dope and he would make a mistake.
And that sounds
I'd be great at it.
I would love to see it.
The other role I always wanted to play, Marv in the remake of Home Alone's.
Which one's Marv?
Marv is Daniel Stern. Not Joe Pesci.
Okay.
Marv is the one that gets electrocuted. I could kill.
I feel like I've seen Home Alone fewer times than most people.
Yeah, it's one of your biggest personality flaws.
I've seen it a handful of times, and I think maybe not to bring up Brenda Lee, because people get mad at me when I bring up Brenda Lee.
Yeah, you have an issue with Brenda Lee too. Why are you bringing up all the things that people don't like?
But I'm just, because I feel like I should talk about it. We're all friends here, but I feel like maybe that's the reason I don't have the like intrinsic love for Rockin' Around the Christmas Christmas tree.
Okay, that's right, because it comes from Home Alone.
Exactly.
Well, what I will say is that my brother and I we decide every year which one are we going to watch, one or two, but they're classic bad guys. It almost reminds me of 101 Dalmatians. Remember when they'd slink across the street like this? That's the kind of bad guy I would like to play.
Hey, you'd be great at that.
Anyway, that was a tangent. Let's go on to our next.
No, right. I love that you are now running the podcast.
No, I'm trying to
we are
play
now
by
ready
the rules.
We are now ready to go on to the next news story.
I'm trying to be obedient, you guys.
No, you're doing great, and I'm so happy you're here. There's a rumor that Beyonce is in talks for a Vegas residency at the Sphere Arena. I don't know that I believe this rumor, but man, I want to go to that fucking Sphere. And it's like, you know how I feel? I love tech. I love tech.
I didn't know you loved tech.
I love tech.
Okay.
And I'm very excited
What do you love about tech?
I just love that it's always moving forward and everything's going to be so immersive.
Did you guys know that he loves tech?
Yeah, they know, because I've gone on a diatribe about how excited I am to have those like Apple like goggles that you put on, and then it's like, oh, I'm watching a movie and it's like as big as my wall. So the Sphere feels like that without the goggles to me. I do kind of wonder. I mean, it must be a space that's not that huge, because if you're gonna be in an immersive experience where it's like, oh, now we're on a beach and all this, the screen around you is like a big beach. It's like, I would also like some like close-up shots of the artist, but maybe when you're in the Sphere, you just really feel like you're, I don't know, a Joshua Tree and the performer's just right there.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because my friend Tara drove by herself to Las Vegas to see U2 live at the Sphere.
How did she like the Sphere?
And I said, are you a 75-year-old straight man who's our dad? And and we all made fun of her, but she wanted to see the Sphere. And listen, U2 was my dad's favorite band. But they do pioneers things.
Yes.
For better or for worse.
Hey, we all got that album on our phone that we didn't want.
And so the Sphere does seem like something that seems to be
Did Tara say the Sphere was cool?
She had a nice time at the Sphere.
Nice isn't as good as I...
No, I mean, but just I think that the Sphere is potential. And imagine what Beyonce could do.
Beyonce could do a lot with the Sphere, but can the Sphere do a lot with Beyonce? You know what I'm saying?
Well, Vegas residency, it's taken such a different meaning.
I know.
Since, remember when Celine Dion did it was like, oh, that's where you get put out to pasture. And then, I will say, when Britney did it, I will say that Celine did quite a job of making it like, oh, that's a thing you do.
Totally. Because it was in like, what, early 2000s?
It was really early
so
for her.
It's like
her husband was old, and he was like, let's do old people things.
And she was very big. Like, she was still putting out like hit records.
But they
at
wanted
that point.
a different lifestyle.
Right. So she's making it, I agree, with Celine and then obviously Britney next, like going to Vegas as a residency.
Making it cool.
Making
honestly.
it cool. It's like, this is not like just how people thought of when Elvis or whoever was up in Vegas.
It's right, where it was like, oh, where you go when no one really cares about you. Right. But Britney made it where people go to see you, and then Adele has made it to, well, it makes my life better. You know what I mean?
Thing.
Like, because Adele's sort of like, why would I come to you when you can come to me?
Because it's like, I know you'll all come to me.
And it's more cost effective, and it's so much better on your life. And how about that thing about how Miley's had this huge album this year, and she's like, it doesn't serve me to tour. And I give her a lot of credit for having the balls to, because she's like, yeah, I could make a ton of money, but that's not good for me.
Yes, like, I don't feel good. The thing is, in my opinion, the worst part of being a pop star, in my imagination, would be the touring. Like, the incessant travel that you have to do. Like, I love the mini tours that Mariah is doing for Christmas, because it doesn't seem like it's so time-consuming.
It doesn't take a whole year.
Yeah, it's the thing. And people go on tour for years at a fucking time. Like, you know,
and they say you have to do it so it'll make enough money, right? That's how they trick you.
And it's like, you know, say what you want about Taylor, but she is on that tour for a fuck ton of time. So good for her. And she's on stage for that long. It's like, good for her for doing that, because it just seems like such a fucking grind, honestly.
Yeah, well, and comedians I know who do these secondary markets 50 weeks a year.
Right.
And that's like, it's when you're Taylor, it's like in nice accommodations.
Right.
You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah.
So, okay, speaking of Britney, we've talked about Britney a lot on this podcast, I must say. Britney had an Instagram post, which Britney, I think, may have delete her Instagram again. I searched for her and I couldn't find her. But she had an Instagram post that I just love because I feel like the book made me understand her previous Instagram posts so much more. Like I feel like she talked about like the Jamie Lynn incidents and like incidents with her mom. And then she goes and posts a picture of herself with a very young Taylor Swift, pre-fame, obviously. This is way back when, but kind of cool, during my Oops tour. I got a knock on my door. My good friend at the time was the assistant to my manager who was trying to become a manager himself. There was a knock and then he said, I have a girl named Taylor who wants to sing for you. And obviously it was Taylor Swift. She goes on and says, kind of cool that she plays stadiums and I prefer her videos over movies any day. She's stunning, my girl crush. And it's like, oh, what a lovely post. How Queens supporting Queens. Nothing negative to say there. P.S. And it's like, oh, Lord, here we go. Mom, I love you so much, but there were 3 dolls in the cabinets when I went home 2 years ago. Kind of really weird you would take them out and then put them back in. So messed up. Nope, I don't want them. Keep it all. I honestly don't care anymore, honestly, though.
An interesting addendum.
Iconic. Iconic. And the thing is, previous to the book, I would have been like, I don't know what this means. Like, maybe this is worrying. But if there's anything the book taught me, it's like, there might be another book, and that book will explain why she's fucking pissed at whatever happened with her mom right now.
Well, she has talked about how she collected she did talk in the book about how she collected the dolls, and then while she was gone in the facility that they put her family forced her into while they were spending her money,
right,
her mother threw out her collection. So there's so there's this whole, and also when she talks about in 2002 after the Justin breakup, when she goes back to Louisiana and she's like, there wasn't Louisiana for me to go back to. And I remember, we talked about this. I remember when this happened and there was this stupid People magazine spread. And it's so funny to get Britney's take on it because I remember at the time being like, why is this a People magazine spread about how Britney just wants to take some time and she's fine? And it's like she goes back to Louisiana and she realizes that it's not home.
It's not.
And the least that, it's funny because like I think a lot of people can relate to like you have stuff at your parents' house for a lot of years after you don't live there anymore. And there are times when things get thrown out or whatever.
Right.
But I think it's really like, how are you spending so much of my money?
And you can't even keep
you asked me to get close to it, now I bumped into
it. That's fine.
How are you spending so much of my money when you are also like being so careless with the things that I care about? And so it is weird, like, because for me, it would be like, if I'm going to do my Taylor post as Britney, I'm going to keep that separate from me yelling at my mom.
Right.
But what I also love about it is that Britney is so, like, unbothered. She's not competitive in a way other artists are, where she's just like, she's not thinking like, oh, is Taylor the new me?
No.
She's like, oh no, this girl, like, and Britney's like not even weird about her age. No. She's like, no, because she was a baby and she came to see me. Like, she doesn't worry about that stuff. And I feel like Britney doesn't get enough credit for like not having these hangups and being genuinely supportive. And it's why Mariah likes Britney a lot too. Because it's like, Britney's like, no, you're not just Mariah, you're Mariah Carey to me, and I'm obsessed with you, and I don't even know what to do. And the way that she talked about Paula Cole and all these other artists in her books, like, so yes, and you're so right that the book gave a lot of context to Britney's Instagram rants,
for sure,
but also like she's still getting that fucking anger out of her,
and that's true. And that's the thing,
she deserves
for so long she was not able to express herself, and so even if she's even if it's going to be an addendum on a Taylor Swift appreciation post, I appreciate that now she has the freedom to speak her mind and be like, this is not okay, this is something I didn't like. And I'd forgotten that thing about the dolls in the books. I'm wondering, did Lynn read the book and then be like, oh, I found the dolls, do you want them?
Right, like, oh, how convenient.
It feels like that. Which, by the way, I know my mom is watching. You can throw out everything of mine, just not my yearbook and not my CD wallet and the CD cases they came in. Everything else can go.
I have Mariah scrapbooks that I will be needing.
You will be needing that. Yeah, that's important. Those, yeah. So. Well, I'm glad we could send that message to our parents. Yeah. Okay, what's happening next? There's a rumor, which I can't tell if it's true or not, that Brad Pitt, and Reese Witherspoon are trying to produce Britney Spears' memoir into a film. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that Britney would go for it, but I like that big names are attached. Even though Brad Pitt, I feel like, has had some negative press involving his breakup with Angelina Jolie. If you want to look that up, you can do it on your own time. So I just wonder if partnering with him at this very moment would be odd, as Britney is someone who is a victim of, financial abuse of her own kind. I just it would be a little odd, but I like that big names are in the mix. That's what I'll say.
I don't need there to be fictionalized I think part of the reason why podcasts and audiobooks are as big as they are right now is because why the Whitney movie didn't do that great is because like I don't know that like scripted versions of people's life stories is like how we want to consume them right now. I think like hearing it from the horse's mouth and like hearing it like a little bit realer is better than like the Hollywooded version. Like, when was the last time there was like what was the Elton John movie? Yes, that did okay. Like, I didn't see it. Like,
I didn't either.
When was the last biopic that anyone
Elvis
gave a shit
movie did
about?
well. It got that guy an Oscar, Austin Butler.
Got him an Oscar, but a lot of people are saying that it was like that. There's a different version about Priscilla that's coming. Yeah. I don't know, and also regarding Brad Pitt, like I can't speak to like the father or husband that he was, but like divorces are really messy, and I think that sometimes like you don't work with someone who had a messy breakup.
I think it's more than that.
Okay,
yeah,
with him,
yeah.
You think they're okay? Yeah,
I don't want to break it down. If you want to look it up, you can. I think it's like a physical altercation. Verbal altercation kind of thing. That's beyond a messy breakup. But who knows what's happening there? Just things I've read.
I wasn't there. You couldn't believe it. I wasn't.
What? You were not? I thought you and Brad were like this.
We can be.
Just great news for me. The first TV series to restart after the SAG-AFTRA strike have been announced, and Abbott Elementary is starting filming so fucking soon. And I believe the first episode will be airing in February. I cannot wait. It's been so long. I've started to feel, as much as like my Housewives and the Golden Bachelor are keeping me alive during the strike, Abbott has been leaving a big hole in my heart.
Is that your favorite scripted comedy?
Yes, that is on at the very moment. Absolutely, it is. So, have you watched it?
I haven't, but I have to. I know
it's amazing.
You're going
hear good things. You have time to catch up because it won't be back until.
What are 3 seasons now?
I think it would be the 3rd season. Okay. I think there's only 2 in the can.
I can catch up.
Okay, I think I'm gonna skip that Will Smith thing because who knows what's happening there.
I don't think he's gay.
I don't think he's gay either. I mean, the long and short of it is I don't think...
it's like that whole thing of like everyone wants to make everything out of their sex life, and I don't care about their sex life.
Right. It's like if they like it, I love it.
It's like everyone's feeling like, you duped us. No, they were just like an imperfect married couple that got along for fucking 30 years, and it's like... I feel like everyone's like trying to be like, we knew about you. And it's like, get over it.
And it's like people are just trying to because I think this was a former assistant or someone who went to the podcast and claimed he saw something between Will Smith and a man. And it's like, is there a there? Like, if it seems like it didn't happen according to Jada, who had a very iconic quote about it, which was just, we suing. And I appreciated that response to TMZ.
Because people don't have nice things to say about her these days, but I can appreciate
that. I thought that was very funny. But to me, it's also like, I don't, like, even if that were true, I am unmoved. Like, I don't care so much about that.
I'm very sensitive to, it's very homophobic when making up gay rumors is, like, intended to hurt somebody.
Right, and like this isn't intended to be salacious news because
it reminds me of 1998 when like he's gay would be like the worst thing you could say about somebody.
Right.
Like okay.
Which is when Will and Grace started. I was telling Rory that I was rewatching Will and Grace, which I've told you all about. But it's just so impressive that Will and Grace existed in that time. And it was so, like, of course they'd make gay jokes amongst themselves, but it was a celebration and it seems so very real. I love Grace so much. It's just, this isn't about Will and Grace, but I just really appreciate that it existed in that time of like such rampant homophobia.
Yeah.
Lastly, and I don't know that you even watched the OC, but I just need to say this for myself. There was a Vanity Fair article that's discussing the OC cast and crew having some regrets. There were days when I only had 6 days off in the whole year. Misha Barton says it was exhausting, which I understand that. Things that were said. Most of the cast and crew now think it was a mistake to kill off Marissa and that the show never recovered.
Is that Misha Barton?
That's Misha Barton.
Okay.
And there's more around that, and let me discuss. You killed the show with season 3. That entire season was unwatchable, unfun. I could not, honestly. We love everybody. When Marissa died, and season 4 is one of the most fun seasons of that show. Whether it was popular or not, it reinvigorated it. Like that, Misha Barton just
True of Ugly Betty as well. Season 4, excellent.
Season 4 of Real Housewives of Potomac, also excellent. There's something about season 4. But I feel like it really reinvigorated the show, and Misha Barton very clearly did not want to be on that show as of season 3. And the writing and the storylines were we were being dragged through the mud for 26 episodes or for however however long every season was back in those days. That is what the problem with the show was. Season 4 with Taylor replacing Marissa is actually excellent. And even if it did not, do incredible ratings, justice for Taylor, justice for season 4. The OC people have it wrong. It's excellent.
Okay. So
So
season 4 is good.
It's
and
great.
They didn't need Misha Barton.
No.
Well, she was, of course, part of the whole Perez Hilton culture of like, who are these messed up girls who we're still going to be obsessed with and talk about all the time, but aren't they so messed up?
Right, and we're going to draw penises on their picture.
And he was doing it to Britney and Paris and Amy Winehouse and people who had varying, completely different issues.
Right.
But I think that's I didn't watch the OC, but I remember her specifically being talked about in that way, and I remember thinking like, that doesn't seem very nice.
I feel like Perez Hilton pops up these days more often than I think he should.
Well, I loved in one of the Britney documentaries. What's the something Cron?
Oh, the Chiron.
It said Perez Hilton, disgraced blogger, and I was like, "That's correct."
Really?
Yeah, it
That's
did.
so
Because
funny.
he is disgraced because the way that he capitalized off of the way that he treated women was inexcusable.
Okay, so the last story we're going to discuss is one I'm sure you've heard in the news today.
We held it till the end.
Held to the end because it's not fun to discuss, and also trigger warning. There's discussion of the R word and like sexual assault and things. So if you'd like to skip over this section, feel free. So Cassie of Me and You fame, long-term girlfriend of Sean P. Diddy Combs, in federal court accused him of rape and physical abuse. And the two had previously dated. She was signed to his record label. They met when she was 19 in 2005, and he began a pattern of abuse that included plying her with drugs, forcing her to have sex with male prostitutes while he filmed it. And in 2018...
means they call that a cuck in other political leanings.
They do that.
Did I just call Diddy a cuck?
That's what you said. In 2018, near the end of the relationship, that is where she discussed the final incident occurred. It just was like the fact that there even is on the legal document a trigger warning is like so incredibly horrifying. Like I didn't know that was a thing, and like the details that you can read within this story are just more shocking and terrifying and horrifying than the next. The fact that she survived this is such a beautiful thing, and I hate that she was living this way and like going through this for so long. I'm glad she was able to publicly tell her story, and I think they've already reached a settlement. They've already reached an agreement the day after, I believe, a settlement was reached, because I think Diddy was seeing like, he didn't want more to come out, I imagine.
And that seems to be the way that he handles things,
yes,
which is
that
like
he throw
money at it and get it. Yeah.
And it's like, I guess I was never plugged into their relationship very much, but like, just like from a high level point of view, like you have the memories of 90s Diddy being like, just like the fun party guy. And I feel like the longer you live on earth, the more men will disappoint you and disgust you. And like, it's not always men, but like kind of in these stories, it fucking is. Like, I feel like we're 1 week out from that Keke Palmer news. It's just, I don't know. It's just really tough out there. And I hope the fact that these people are being publicly shamed and turned against will inspire some young men to not behave in this horrifying way. I realize that money and power and access turns people into thinking they are not invincible, but shit will come back to bite. You can't treat people like this and expect to like go off and not have anything bad happen to you. Certainly, I'm sure it's happened in the past that people have gotten away with shit like this for a long time. And I'd like to think that we as a society are not about that these days. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I have a lot of thoughts. I think that, as gay men and gay men who love women and who have a lot of women in our lives, it's hard not to feel like, God, like, where are the good men, you know? But that's a little bit of an illusion, because I think men have a little bit more leverage a lot of the time to use power in this way. It doesn't mean that men are their character like is somehow inferior. Like, there are also a lot of fucked up people of different gender orientations. I think where it comes in, where it's the power and the money that gets people.
It is, but even powerful, like these stories, 99% of the time, it's a man at the bottom of it. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence. My argument is not that every man is bad, but my argument is when you're reading stories like this, it's always
because for many reasons they have the upper hand, including a lot of times threats of physical violence.
Right,
and threats,
exactly.
There's an upper hand. But I guess is the delineation that I was making is that it's not as though like men are born more evil. It's that I think somebody like Diddy had so many tools in his disposal, and I think that I, like you, was not plugged into their relationship because I didn't care, because I didn't find either of them particularly talented enough for me to care.
Me and You is great.
Me and You is great, but it was Ryan Leslie's song. It's not a Cassie song. Ryan Leslie made the song. I'm not taking anything away from Cassie, but to be quite honest, to this day, I do not consider Cassie to be primarily a musician. Cassie is a very beautiful woman who has had some very good songs and has had some very terrible things happen to her, and who has done a very brave thing. Now, a lot of people are upset about the criminal justice system because this gets settled out of court. He doesn't really get to be held accountable.
Right.
To me, I'm happy that she's getting whatever damages she feels like she should get, and that's what's important. Now, it's interesting because I had written her off initially as just this like, oh, well, she's a model who Diddy signed, and now she's got a hit song. Well, you know, she didn't get to prove me wrong because he got her addicted to all these drugs and alcohol. And so she was under his thumb. And it's like, because I had always wondered, I was like, why didn't she ever have a proper follow-up?
I know.
And it's because, I think Lil Wayne did this to Nivea, and I don't know these people, so don't come for me in court. But in the sense of like, oh, I'll take you under my wing, and actually what I would like you to do is give up your career and become my baby mama. And I think sometimes this happens to women where it's like a powerful man says like, I'm going to take care of you, but what they really want to do is
control you.
Yes. And so it's the fact that she spoke out. I mean, it sounds like she was terrified to do the stories are insane. And the reason that I gave Diddy a hard time for being a cuck is that it's like, you okay, like be this big man, but like you want to watch some other guy like dick down your girl, like which one is it? And I think that like if having certain sexual fantasies is like we love everyone's whatever they want to do behind closed doors, but it's like don't be this big man that blows up Kid Cudi's. That was the
so
irony to me.
up.
He allegedly blew up Kid Cudi's car because Kid Cudi was in a relationship with Cassie, but then he goes on to videotape other men being in a relationship with Cassie. It's like, which one is it, man?
And it's like
only when it's your say do you like it.
But it's like, to me, all of that is like, if you have another consenting person who's interested in doing whatever fantasy you want to do, go for it. Does not sound like Cassie was there. It does not sound like she was consenting to any of this shit. And it just, I'm so happy. It seems like she has a very nice man she's with now. I believe she's married to this guy. And
it sounds as giving her the confidence.
Absolutely. And she's in a much better place. And I agree. I'm glad that she feels like she is getting what she deserves out of this. And she's also getting the fact that even if the criminal justice system is not involved anymore,
she's getting what
it's like
needs.
The pub, like we all are going to look at him in a different light these days.
And that's the thing is that the story's been told either way.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter if there's a trial or not.
And it's like, we know.
Yeah, the damage has been done. And I don't think he knows that.
I mean, I bet he imagines that it'll go away, and to me it won't. Like, I will never look at that person the same way. And it's
for some people it won't. I mean, there are some people who haven't let go of Kanye. There's some people who haven't let go of 50 Cent. There have been some people who haven't let go of
Imagine not
DaBaby.
letting go of Kanye. Like, that's a choice. I was very soon to let go of him.
Yeah, well, same. But there's, especially unfortunately in recent weeks, there's been some dark shit about that. So anyway, I to answer your original question, in addition to having more respect for Britney Spears these days, I have a lot more respect for Cassie because I had no idea, didn't know.
There's no way to know.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm glad she's out of it.
I'm glad
really
too.
The most
I'm glad she's
thing.
in a good place with a nice person and is safe. And yes, it just is sad and awful and not fun. Rory, is there any other news for idiots that you'd like to share with the people?
Listen, this isn't my show. I'm just trying to be on good behavior. Matt Palmer, this is I know your fans know this, but I think the Two Gay Match show is so great for a lot.
I appreciate you. We're not done with the podcast. We're gonna take a break.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we'll be right back with more Two Gay
I was gonna say nice things.
I know, but it was more for the end of the podcast. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Two Gay Mats, the podcast. We're back here with Rory James. How you feeling, Rory?
We just got one gay Matt today.
It's true. Only one.
One gay Matt and one gay Rory.
And one gay Rory. It's really good. I don't know. That doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but you know what? We'll figure it out. We absolutely will. And guys, I just want to say thank you so much for listening or watching the podcast. If you're enjoying it, make sure to go to your Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a 5-star review. It's true. We only accept 5-star reviews. So if you have notes, feel free to send an email to yourself because we're not accepting of those. But if you do really enjoy us, make sure to go to patreon.com/2gaymats where you can get extra bonus content for as little as $5 a month. Join the Discord and chat with new friends you just haven't met yet. And, for a certain level, you can actually request that we review or react to something of your choosing. So that's all I got to say about that. We do. And we're on to a section of the podcast that's named for our Queen Brittany, your new Queen Brittany.
Oh my God.
Entitled Email My Heart. And this is where we look at our emails, see if what we get, respond to some as they come in. And today we're going to have me and Rory's point of view, which is going to be a little different than me and Matt Steele's. So who knows what's going to be said. This email was sent to us a couple of weeks ago, but it landed on our junk folder for some reason. So this is from Rosendo. This is Hi Matt Squared. Let me start by saying I'm a fairly new listener and I'm so happy I found you guys. You make my workday so much better. So I need some advice. I recently got in a relationship with a guy. We have known each other for like 6 months now and have been official for like 4 months. Everything is going great and I genuinely like this guy so much, but there is a reoccurring issue/argument we have been having. He has a big issue with me being friends with people I have hooked up with in my past while I reassure him that it was just a one-time thing and or a drunk night. He still thinks it's disrespectful to our relationship. He gets annoyed when any of my ex hookups happen to be at the same bars as me and I say hi to them and still hang out with them. Am I wrong for being friendly with an ex or someone I once hooked up with? I tell him that if I ever feel any of my friends come on to me, I will distance myself from them. Is it bad to still be friendly with an ex and hook up? I really want this to work and try to reassure him that they're just friends. Also, I'm 30 and he is 24, so I sometimes feel like he may be a little young to understand my point of view. But who knows? Maybe I am in the wrong. Any advice would help. Love, Rosendo. HPS. Love that one of you guys is a Bravo junkie and a Big Brother super fan when I am both. I'm so happy I found you guys. Matt Steele loves Big Brother. I feel like you're going to say what I want to say, so how do you feel about this?
I have a lot of feelings about this.
Yes.
One of my best friends in the entire world is my ex, and we didn't just hook up. We were in a serious relationship for several years, and we lived together for longer than that. And I sometimes think about how and he's now essentially married with a kid.
Right.
I think about how if his current partner had said, like, we can't be friends, like, that would have devastated me.
Totally.
And it's not because I have any, like, intentions or desires to, like, have a sexual relationship with this person at all. It's, like, laughable to call him my ex at this point because he's my friend. He's one of my best friends. And his oldest best friend was his first ever boyfriend. They haven't been, the idea of them even being physical is like mortifying to everybody.
Totally.
Now, when you're younger or you're used to more hegemonic relationship structure or traditional relationship structures, or there's that like a lot of straight guys don't like their wives or girlfriends to have any contact with any guy they've ever been with, and it's like, get the fuck, like, the thing is that so it's one thing to, like, maybe it doesn't do anything to keep in touch with that person you had drunk sex with from a bar 5 years ago. But, like, people who you had, like, a serious emotional connection to, like, that's shit that stays with you for life.
Right.
And, like, what a beautiful thing when you can realize a functional, it comes down to boundaries. And what the issue it's not whether you've had a physical relationship with somebody or not. Is the person you're in a relationship with good with boundaries? Because if they are, you don't have to worry about that at all.
Right.
And they can say, okay, you know what? My ex from college or all this time before you, we had this beautiful moment, and that doesn't, because what a horrible thing to do to your partner, to say, cut this thing that's been really important to you out of your life because I'm not comfortable with it, because I'm not secure. What an insecure thing to do to your partner.
And that's the thing, is it feels like it's more your boyfriend's problem than yours.
Exactly.
Like, because it's not even, maybe I'm remembering the letter wrong, but he's asking you to, like, essentially ignore people that come up to you in public settings just because you've had a sexual history at some point, you hooked up with them at some point. Like, that's crazy. That would make
if they're important to you, then you should at least be able to be cordial.
If they're honestly anyone, like he should be. I understand he's 24 and he's 30, which by the way I think has something to do with this. Yes. I feel like as a young person, you're more.
And I wouldn't have been as good with it.
At that age, maybe I would have a little bit of a problem, but I certainly wouldn't phrase it like this. Like he doesn't get to choose who your friends are and who you surround yourself with. If you are comfortable in these situations, it is in no way disrespectful to your relationship to engage with someone that you've had a sexual past with, or be friendly with someone that like you had a one night thing with, just because you're like, well, he's a person, he's in my life, there's nothing there, nothing's going to happen, and if you trust me, then this should be a non-issue. And if you choose to say like, it makes me uncomfortable, I probably won't hang out when you guys hang out, that's a choice that he can make. If he's like, I don't really want to be around, it makes me uncomfortable, sure, deal with that, talk to a therapist, but like he doesn't get to choose your friends. And if they're not being like actively horrible to you, if they're not doing things to hurt you emotionally or physically, if they're truly just their biggest issue is like you've had a physical connection at some point, like that's a choice you make. Like I feel like people in the podcast who've listened a long time know that I don't generally keep in touch with my exes, but that's my choice. Jackson would never in a billion years say, do not keep in touch with your exes. If your ex comes, you can't speak to him, because it's crazy talk. Like you get to choose the people that are in your life. And if you are in no threat of danger emotionally or physically, he can have his opinion or feeling, but he cannot choose who you surround yourself with. You're a person of integrity, clearly, because you listen to this show. And you're not going to cross any boundaries. If you cheated on him, that would be disrespectful,
right? Or
to
if
your
you
relationship.
Start a communication that's crosses boundaries.
Yes. There are boundaries there, but like saying hi to someone that you see in public and be like, oh, hey, how are you? That's not in any way disrespectful. And also, let me tell the
24-year-old, live a couple years longer, and there are people, you're going to have a longer list of people you've been in a sexual relationship with, and most of the people on that list, you're not going to consider revisiting.
Exactly.
So, like, to me, one of the another big factor in terms of like the guys that I consider to be with is like they need to be secure.
Hello.
And if they're like, I am one of those people that think it's kind of cute where it's like where a guy gets like a little playfully jealous. Where he's like oh, I bet you liked him, huh? I bet you like him. But like not like in a way that's like you're not allowed to talk to people who were meaningful to you. And like, come on, grow up, grow a pair, and grow some confidence.
And it's like, I'm an adult and you're not my mother. Like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. If it's not
cute,
it's not cute. It's not cute. If it's not something that is truly crossing a boundary of like engaging sexually with someone, then you have no say as to what I can do. And I think there's got to be a kind way for you to pass along this message. But essentially, this is your boyfriend's issue and one that he should deal with, whether it's talking to a therapist or whether it's like looking within or... But, I don't know however he thinks to do his therapy, but he should do it and bring this up because this is not a you problem, it's a him problem, and I hope he works through it.
I completely agree with that.
Look at us agreeing.
That is great relationship advice.
That is the advice I have, and let's move on to the section of the podcast called Giving You Moments. This is a section where we discuss anything that's been giving you moments. We don't always do it, so if you don't have one, that's fine.
What kind of moments?
Well, it's just like anything that like brought you joy. If there's like content that you consumed this week, because the thing is, Mariah really was our Giving Me Moments.
Mean, what can I say?
We opened with our Giving Me Moments, but I also just wanted to put a little cherry on top and say, this section of the holidays in which like things are coming up. Like I'm just excited. I've made my whole list of what I need to buy for my Thanksgiving and Friendsgiving celebrations over the next week. I don't have work on Thursday and Friday and like basically half of Wednesday if we're being honest. Cute. And just like the chill in the air. Like I feel like, I'm a holiday person. You saw me at that Christmas show. I just feel more alive during this time of year. The joy is palpable. I'm just excited for the togetherness and the food and the reverence and the music, and I can't wait to put up my fucking Christmas lights and Christmas tree. Like I just am feeling the feelings of joy, and I feel like that has a lot to do with that Mariah show. But truly, I have not been looking forward to something that was so close, a long time.
This. No, you're giving me the holiday spirit just by osmosis.
And you know what movies I watch in lieu of Home Alone? I watch The Family Stone.
Okay,
and I watch The Holiday. with Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet switching spaces. So those are going to be my two. It's like Jackson, you can watch if you'd like. You've seen them both now. But if you don't want to watch them, feel free not to. I will be watching. I will be consuming. These eyes will see. And you know what I might add to that list? Because CBS still has the recording up on streaming of Mariah's concert.
And they're going to re-air it on Christmas. On Christmas.
Re-air
that's right.
it, and I think it's up on Paramount Plus to stream if
when
you want to do that.
You got to re-air it.
Hello? You got to re-air it. So I'm just excited for the time of year. And maybe I'm a softie. Maybe I'm just like our person next to us who's just a big Christmas stand and is having like people come over to his house this weekend just to decorate his house. Because it's like when I do it alone, it takes 2 full days. I'm like, icon. I want to be like you when I grow up, sir. So we love Christmas. We love the holidays. We love merriment. And it's here.
Hell yeah.
Hello.
I love that. And it's people like you and the guy that sat next to us on the show that put me in the spirit, because I don't have a religious association with Christmas time. I don't have kids. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't have kids?
That I know of. But it's like, it's that thing of sometimes I was doing a joke earlier about how I had always wished that Santa was a little bit hotter.
I just liked that post.
So that we could have something for people who don't because Christmas can be either religious centric or kid centric. Yeah. And it's like, what about the adults who want to beyond just drinking, you know? But no, what you're saying is that, and I love, what I love about the end of the year is taking a bunch of time off and going and seeing people. And I told you I'm going to do my big New York trip, and that's going to be fun.
So excited for you.
And, but I like the idea of just taking the unplug. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes. And also, I reconnected with a guy that I had sort of this time last year hung out with for a little while, and he came over the other night, and it's funny because sometimes gay guys get so caught up in the hookup of it all, right? And what I liked about it was that it was really more about a snuggle and stay the night thing.
Stay the night, great song. 05.
That's my favorite song in Emancipation.
It's a great one. Should have been a single.
But it's when we're talking about nuance of different relationships, there's a way to not be in a monogamous relationship with somebody, but also have a really cute, have it not just be physical. And basically he came over, it was later in the day and we both had worked all day, and I was like, just stay over. And and what we both needed was not necessarily to reconnect with each other, but it was really nice to.
Totally.
And what we did not need was a hookup, a grinder moment. Right. What we needed was just some snugs, honestly, and to hang out with somebody who that you're at ease with, you're it's not that, because there's just so new people, there's just such a, you don't know, and just to have somebody you're comfortable with, somebody that you genuinely like, but to also not need a commitment from them. I don't need you to be oh, we're in a relationship now. What does this mean? It's no, just, and I've noticed with men, the more you give them that, the more they want to come back, because it's it's on their own terms. So something that I am looking forward to more this holiday season is reconnecting with guys I've just had a good vibe with, who also have the time off.
Totally.
You know what I mean? That's the thing, is you see your family, but you also can see other people who got time off.
True.
And so that is part of the magic for me.
That's true. And then
little mistletoe smooches. Come on.
Hello. Every Christmas song's about that. And then you'll be going to Boston. It's a whole new pool of people that you've seen in the past.
Well, that's where I grew up. That's my. I think we've burned through that pool, but no, your holiday spirit is getting me in the spirit.
I'm so glad to hear it.
Yeah.
And Rory, I cannot thank you enough for being
please,
here.
Anytime.
People are so happy. Make sure to follow It's Rory James wherever you get your social media content. Go see him live on tour wherever he's performing. Listen to his podcast. I'm super excited with Rory James. Hilarious, iconic, weekly perfection. You're going to love it.
Thank you for having me. This has been an absolute joy.
Beyond.
And I love this show.
Well, hopefully you'll come back soon.
Anytime.
Anytime. Thanks, guys. We'll see you very soon.
Bye.
Bye.